My recollection of that was the explosion. And the next thing I knew, I woke up on the ground, down, a little boy on top of me and a huge crowd on top of us. So we were pinned. And then he just died in my arms.
Monday, 21st of September 2020, 7 years after the Westgate mall attack, which you actually are a survivor in. There's several bullets from it. And I remember I watched that interview of you where you said that you feel like that day you were born again.
Yeah, I think it was just not me. There was a lot of people who were, born again that day. The lucky ones, as we should not forget. There was casualties, there was fatalities, there was people who died. There was 64 who died on the day, and the knock-on effect of a trauma like that. I believe my father had struggled with that as well, and he passed away, 2 years after that. So an attack like that doesn't just, it's not just one bullet. It's families who get affected in the long run, and it's a horrible thing. But it's also, I say, something that you go through, and you come out on the other side a completely different person. You appreciate life. You appreciate the small things in life, and you become a very strong and in a very gentle way. And we had the children's competition there that day. So it was, it was East FM. It was all those children, their parents. 12:30, I remember that time, and I never forget the temperature either. It was a very warm day, like it is today, and it was exactly 12:30. The commotion started downstairs. And it was like, we thought it was a robbery. We in Kenya are so used to robberies. It's wheezy. But we didn't realize. So in that commotion, we were having coffee at the Java, and friends of mine, and we were watching the cooking competition carrying on. And one of the saddest person, I think for me, the reminder of some very sad moments, was Ruhila Adatia. Because Ruhila was 6 months pregnant. And I was a huge fan of hers, for the work she did. And I remember her, walking past and waving, and, such a beautiful person. I didn't know that within, the next few minutes things would be over. And when the shooting started, everybody said, it's a robbery. And I thought, wow, it's a robbery. So we got to find safety. And at the far end of the top floor, that's where we were. Past the children. I saw the children being gathered, so I thought, they're going to be fine. So I thought, let's get people to the far end and be quiet. The sad fact is that everyone was for themselves. The women were pushed back. There was some men who were very strong. They were definitely not what I would call our local people, or our Kenyan people. There were people from away, maybe, working in our country. And their first instinct was, as like everybody else, it was, me first. I was sad. So the crowd sort of surged. We got pushed in the periphery, and I grabbed this little boy's hand and I said, stay with me. And I must have been like this, with my back to the ramp where they had come up. And the next thing, I felt this impact. So I turned and I put my hand, and as I put my hand, I noticed I had a big hole in the top of my arm. And I felt my back was wet. And I looked at my hand and I knew I'd been hit. But it's amazing how the mind operates. I didn't see the rest of my arm. And I didn't see that, it was more than one. And straight away, they threw the grenade. So they'd open fire and they'd use these, whatever, the semi-automatics and whatever, and they threw the grenade. Now with the grenade explosion, I lost my hearing. And the crowd, obviously, because the grenade was thrown so close, my recollection of that was the explosion. And the next thing I knew, I woke up on the ground, down, a little boy on top of me and a huge crowd on top of us. So we were pinned. And then he just died in my arms. That was very hard. The saddest was the little boy, because I lost my mother prior to that, a few months before that, Mum passed away in January. And I remember my mum slipping away. And I remember holding my mum and her, you know, her breathing, her last, she was so peaceful. She just transitioned, you know, and she was gone. And this little boy's heart was like, you know, I remember how his heart was pounding against me as I was holding him. And I kept saying to him, I love you, because that's all I could say to him. And yeah, and he just went, you know, he must have taken 2 breaths and he was gone. And then help arrived and we were picked up about 4 o'clock. But you know, in the time I had, you know, help did come. And the time I had between the first round of help, when people who were able to stand were told, come on, let's move. And the time when Red Cross arrived and our special forces arrived, it was a long wait. And I think it made a big difference in many ways, you know. I had time to prepare, to either meet my creator. I still had no idea how badly I was injured. I didn't even see the blood. I just saw that my arm was bleeding. So my friend had given me a brand new scarf, so I wrapped the top of my arm, but I didn't want to stand up. Something in my heart told me, don't stand up, don't try and move. But I didn't know what. And so I, you know, when my friend was Sangeeta, I'll never forget, you know, she was crying. She's like, I can't leave you behind. I have to carry you. We will carry you. I said, no, take my handbag and leave, because if you are here, no one will know. You go. Still not realizing that how badly I was injured. I thought I just shouldn't walk. Something in me said, don't walk. It was mayhem out there, you know, people were screaming and crying. And then everything went quiet because somebody said they're coming back to check, so keep quiet. So everybody went quiet. And Rachel Mariah, who was there, had lost her foot. You know, the grenade had hit her foot, so she lost her foot. There was another little girl, maybe 16, she lost her leg. So in the end, you know, the first round of help came, they moved, and we were 4 of us left. So it was the 2 girls, myself, and the little boy. You know, we were in the far corner. There was a white car beside me, and I pulled myself to the car because I thought I need to get into the shade, because the sun was just like this, and it was a hot day. And yeah, so then I thought, if I die, who's going to know who I am? I'd have no ID on me. My handbag's gone. There's no way to identify. So I wrote my name on the car, and I thought, you know, if somebody's going to find Shamim, they'll know this is maybe the person. Because I did feel I was going to slip at times. I felt, you know, but I didn't know what. And I didn't see the blood I was in. It was amazing. I had no recollection. So, you know, God was very, very great that moment. So I kept my eyes like this. I was lying down and I kept my eyes on the trees that were behind here. Because if I looked down, although there was the East FM mic on the far end, so I looked at that and I thought, you know, if I come through this, I'm going to do something with my voice. And I looked at the trees, because around me it was just carnage. It was carnage. There was moments I thought, okay, any minute now, you know, I'm going to be meeting the big man up there. There was moments like that. And then something would also keep me afloat. But it was when they picked me, when I first saw Abbas, and he said, let's get, you know, they were dealing with the 3 of us in the corner. Rachel was going into shock, the other girl was going into shock, but I was not in shock. And when he looked at me, he said, are you injured? Are you hurt, Shamim? Because he saw me lying down. Now, I didn't see that I was actually in a lot of blood. I didn't see it. All I saw was I had this hole here, and I knew I'd been hit near my spine. And he said, just lie there. They're coming. And when they picked me off that ground to put me on the stretcher, there was nothing that didn't hurt. So when they put me in the ambulance, I noticed that everybody, the medics, were all jumping into the, you know, who were there, were getting in, and they all had their heads down. And I was thinking, that's a bit funny. why is everybody putting their head down, not knowing that the firing was still continuing? They were evacuating us and helping us as the firing was going on. Now, are those not heroes? They had no bulletproof armor. They had nothing that could save them from a bullet, but the vest that said Kenya Red Cross. The Special Forces had suits on. They didn't have armor on, And there was a sniper on the roof who was picking people up. So when I got in the car, I said to the guy there, the medic, gave me the first shot of morphine. I said, please, can you do me a favor? He said, yes. I said, can you take my shoe off? And he looked at me and he looked at my foot and he said, okay, brace yourself. And he looked at me and he said, yeah. But he was a very hesitant, yeah. I didn't know that, my foot was really badly injured. I thought I'd just sprained my ankle because I was running. And so when they brought me into hospital, they asked me, where are you, because that's what they were doing at triage. And I said, well, I got hit in my back. My leg is really hurting, my ankle is hurting. And they took the scarf off and they said, and your arm? And I said, well, I think I've been hit here, not seeing the rest of my arm here. And they just kept quiet. And apparently I was bleeding so heavily. So somebody had taken photos. I've not seen them, but there was, blood everywhere. And when I woke up on Sunday, my hair was completely matted. So I think I sent you a photo with that. It was just blood. So when I was taken in for checking, and they said, I heard them say, I think it's the scan or the MRI or whatever, and they said there's 4 bullets, there's 5 bullets, plus shrapnel from the grenade. Talking about gratitude and the healing. So when the doctor said to me, I don't have a colostomy bag, I said, well, then I forgive the people who shot me. Because I was not prepared to be shot by them every single day through my injuries. That was my healing. For a lot of people, it was different. And I also found that the people who had grave injuries had less trauma. But the people who had no injuries had terrible trauma. But never forget one thing, I say. I never forget the resilience of us Kenyans. We were Kenyans for Kenyans, which is such a special thing. There was a 21-year-old kid who was like my little guardian. He wasn't even trained to be a medic or anything, but he was in charge of my visitors. And he was in charge of making sure that everything was done. I used to say to him, are you training as a medic? He said, no, I'm just a volunteer. Everyone wanted to help. And that, to me, is the greatest gift we can afford to give each other. I do believe that 21st September is World Peace Day. And it's ironic that, that was the day that mayhem happened, They picked such a sad day, which should have been a day of celebration. But now when I look at it, I've always said that if you want to do something special, then you have to believe in it. Before the 21st, maybe on the 20th of September, if somebody had said to me, what's peace to you? And I'd have said something funny or beautiful and said, oh, it's okay, you can do, you talk to people. I've lived through it. I know what the lack of peace is. I have felt anger. Those bullets were fired because somebody was very, very angry. And we don't need that, To be angry is human nature, but to let anger become a weapon is a very dangerous thing. It can be anything, we live with it in our lives every single day. Somebody overtakes you, you get angry, you want to overtake them, or you're using bad words. It's no different than pulling a bullet, pulling a trigger on somebody. It's still the same, it's still anger. It can result in something or someone getting hurt very badly. And I have Rotary behind me. And that's something. That may seem like a very small thing, but to a person like me, that is a very big thing. So yes, I get calls, they check up on me, they want to know what we're doing, where we're going, how we're doing it, how exciting is the training, and we're on. So the hashtag is walking for peace and the environment. It's also hashtag healing hearts, because I believe when we can do something at that level, we will heal together. I learned that had I not been shot, I would not be the person I am today. So, somebody said to me, what happens if you meet the person who shot you, or the people who shot you, because it was more than, one, and more, I have a lot of injuries. And I said, well, first of all, maybe I'll give him a slap, or them a slap, and say, after that, I will say thank you, because you changed my life for the better.